it. So there's me. How about you? No, there's no la 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 there. Let's try that again. Go la la la.
La 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 la.
I tested this and it was working. And welcome to the stream.
That's nice.
That's quite good because none of you heard my Freudian slip.
No.
That. Good evening, everybody, and welcome.
Hello, everybody.
How
Michael
are you doing?
Up.
Muted. Yeah, there we go. We should actually be audible now, and which is great. We've got lots of progress to show you on attacking in the RPG.
On the RPG.
Oh no, it's like that, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway. So we've been busy this week. I made a couple of weapons, better weapons than just the ones that took a few minutes to throw together, and they look absolutely fantastic in game. It's really changed the character of the game.
It's gonna look very different when I put the dungeon level back in and realizing as well. Like right now, we're still using the Overland test, because there's still a few more mechanics I want to play with before I do level design. But it's looking really good. Hello, Azrael. Hello, Roderick. Hello, Mikey. Hello, Caboodle. Hello, people. Hello Team
world.
Toucan. Yeah. So yeah, Mikey's done some great work with the weapons. I did some work with the inventory system now having an equipment system, so you can equip a weapon.
Yep.
And then what happens when you change your weapon? What happens when you change your weapon, or how you change the animations, and all bunch of stuff back. So rather than go too far into it, Mikey, why don't you show us what we've got?
I will do. And I've got a special announcement that I've just made up, but I will announce it later.
Good. Mikey's been doing lots of random surprise changes. Some of them I like, some of them I don't like. I'm a little curious to see what this one is going to be.
Oh, it's exciting. I'm gonna declare it after I've shown everybody.
Hello, his arm. I'm saying his arm, right? Hello, cat.
Hopefully this should show. Goddo, it does. Perfect. So let's go ahead and launch the game. So as Yann was saying, we're still in our test world at the moment, and we've got there's another table. Axes, swords. So we've got a selection of different swords, a selection of different axes.
You don't have the latest pull.
I pulled the latest thing. Let's check live.
Yep. I mean, by all means, play with those, but you've got the one with the equipment bug.
Have I? Well, we don't want that. Let's go ahead and grab the proper one. So please hold with us.
1 moment.
And I will switch this.
Oh, yeah. It's Get Cracking. I thought I pushed it. I hadn't. It should be live about now.
Okay, cool. I will go download that. And
you go down to the woods today.
You're sure for a big surprise.
If you go down to the woods today.
Yeah, I can't say the word surprise without thinking about Samuel L. Jackson. But obviously, this is a family-friendly stream, so some people will know what I'm talking about. Others will probably have a look later and laugh or be deeply.
For those of you who don't know, this is our Action RPG prototype that we're getting ready for our big Kickstarter for our series of courses on making the Action RPG and the assets in Blender. And we'll talk a little more about that throughout the stream. We are working very hard to get everything ready in time. So it's hot code. There are bugs. Less bugs than I would have thought, actually, because I solved quite a few today. And in the background, I'm laying the groundwork for the next stage, which is going to be getting inventory containers, so things like chests and things like that working. And then I need to go on to AI, just very basic combat AI, and then onto level, and we're ready for a vertical slice.
That I could segue from there into the announcement, but I'm going to leave it to later.
Okay.
I'm going to keep shifting you around, but we have the proper pull. I've pulled down the latest commit that Yann's made.
We've got the funk.
We can switch over now and go ahead and press play. Yeah, we're back to one table with all the weapons on. Fantastic. Let me make this full screen for your pleasure and enjoyment.
You should also see a chest, which has inventory, but you can't see the inventory. So it may as well not have any.
Oh, okay. So that's a live bug for everybody. So
it's not a bug. I haven't finished the system. It's not coded in yet.
Oh, we got a scroll down here. That's new. Excuse me. or perhaps perhaps it was scrolling before. So we've got a series of items that when we pick them up from the table, as you can see there, I'll pick up a sword and I'll pick up an axe. And then if we want to equip an axe, we can do so by moving it from our inventory slots to our hand.
Oh, the tab key works, Mikey, as you asked.
Fantastic. That's why I was being really slow. So we can whip out a single-handed axe. Oh, nice. So we've got a couple of more effects going on there. A couple of different attacks from before. You've really nailed the timing on that. I really like that one.
I actually want to change how I'm doing those animations, because right now you can't hold the button down and have the attacks go seamlessly.
Yeah.
I know how to fix that. I just haven't done it yet.
Excellent. So yeah, that was one of the bits of feedback we were talking about the other day. Was it'd be nice to attack, but because of the way the animation's timed, the animation has to finish and then it plays again. So there's some tweaking and timing to be sorted out there. So we've got that weapon. We can pop
I'm also
that
very
away.
happy with the work I've done with two-handed weapons.
So this is a two-handed sword, so it'll be different in animations. So we swap from the axe to the sword.
By the way, if you're holding the axe and you swap it, it will change the animation.
Yes. So we've got a much bigger sword here.
And it has completely
That's
different move
awesome.
animations and attack animations.
So one thing I just realised there is my sound on Windows is coming out of the wrong place. And now if I do this, yes. Ah, excellent. Sound's coming through on stream as well. So it's not quite as boring as it could have been without sound. So I'm glad I discovered that. So again. And you saw the particle effect a moment ago, and I went a bit loopy when I saw this. Yann put it in, but
yeah, no, I didn't tell him what was happening. I was like, Mikey, I've fixed two-handed weapons. Try them. Show me on camera when you do. And he just went, ah!
That's such a cool effect, and obviously that's just a standard sphere or a little circle as the particle effect, and so that can be made to look even better than it was.
Placeholder effects, but I was quite happy with the basic concept there.
But
there's no damage happening yet. It's just a visual effect and a sound effect.
Yeah, it's really cool because it really brings it together. And I suppose the other thing is it brings to the forefront the whole idea of making sure sound in your game isn't an afterthought, but it's part of it, because that really does bring that to life. Is this the fire axe?
I mean, you can grab everything. Like, these are all the test weapons.
Yeah.
Also, the blue bladed sword there has a glass blade, which I was quite proud of.
Oh, nice. One thing I wanted to demonstrate here is because this is, well, I think it's relatively new. Might have been here last time and I didn't notice it. But if I decide to go in and pick up the glass blade and put it straight into the weapon slot, the other weapon
last week.
The other weapon drops to the table, which is spot on. That's the behavior I'd expect. Let's pick up a purple potion. Have these got awesome tooltips still?
Yep. But yeah, through the blade if you zoom in, which I was quite happy with.
There we go.
Potions still don't do anything. They're just me playing with the inventory system. The inventory system is quite a lot of work to make this work the way you think it should, because you've got a 3D object in the world, which is a rigid body with a whole bunch of stuff, but it has to link to a resource. Each item in our game and weapon in the game is a specific type of resource. Weapons are a subtype of item, and they follow certain rules and have certain things. But I need to handle a resource, which has an icon and a bunch of properties, and a 3D item and make them be the same thing. So there's a little bit of like going back and forth there.
So I just absolutely knocked everything off the table.
Yep.
Raw!
And of course, dodging still works. And I've tweaked the jump so that it behaves more realistically.
Yeah,
before the mesh would move, but the collision shape wouldn't. So the jump actually was completely pointless. But now you can jump onto things that are the right.
Yes. Is the table just below the right height? No.
It's just above the right height.
Yeah, it's just above the right height.
But jumping onto a table from the floor is quite difficult to do.
Oh, yes. Ow!
Yeah.
I've got a well.
There's quite a lot happening in the background here, and I could probably show some of how this is constructed if you like.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So let me.
So let me.
No, let me.
No, let me.
Oh no, me. Okay.
Please let me.
I'm going to shut me down. I'm going to. Oh, let's make that full screen, and yes, everybody should be able to see what you're doing now.
Great. So if I want to add a new weapon, what I'll do is I'll go to items. I'll go to item resources. I'll go to weapon resources. I'm just going to go new resource, and it's a weapon. And I give it a name. So let's call this weapony weapon, because we're not actually going to make one. I'm just putting it in here for you guys to see. Great. So we have a resource of type weapon, and I give it a name. Right now, we're not using the name, but later on, we're bringing them in the inventory. And, this is a possessed axe of whateverness. This is our weapon. Great. It needs an icon. Well, that's okay. We have a bunch of icons. These are all placeholders, but, we have a bunch of icons we can use. Let's use this nice dagger. We don't actually have any daggers, or this is a blue sword, but whatever. Okay. Rigid body path. So what this is what is the item I'm actually using? So if I go to item models, weapon models, these are the swords we've got in the game. So I'm just going to drag that and put that in here. But within this, I've also got an object here called isItem. And in here, I've got to put the path, not the resource, but the path to the resource in there. It can't be the resource, because if it's a resource loading a scene, and that scene is loading the resource, you have cyclic loading, and Godot won't do it. So one of these has to be a path.
One of the great things about how you've got that set up as well is not only does it make easy for you to create new weapon types, it also means that if you were working in a team, you could hand this over to someone to construct these weapons. The code's there. It's made it not simplistic, but more simpler. There we go. For anybody to actually start making their own weapons.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting here is the type of weapon it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a drop down. Right now, we have one-handed, two-handed, and unarmed. Unarmed is you have no weapon. We have an empty weapon that we have to have in there, because if we have a null in the code, it starts doing weird things. At some point, we'll probably have magic. We don't have them yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't a real resource, so I'm actually not going to keep that. Then when we go into the character, and this is all hot code, and it's a bit messy, and yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
We have this lovely animation tree. Boop.
Wow, that looks bigger than last time I saw it.
It is. But there is a logic. There's a madness to my method. So idle here is just a bunch of idles looping forever, right? So you enter this tree, you'll start here, and you'll just loop round and round and round and round. So that's a state machine within a state machine. From here, we can travel to walk, or we can travel to arm, one-handed arm or two-handed arm. We need to know which one that is, and that's handled in code. The type of weapon you are wielding, like what you have equipped in your hand, has a code to it, and that will tell you which of these trees to go down. So let's take a quick look at how we're handling that. We have a lot of variables. I still want to do this, but wielding, and we're going to start with inventory database. That's our singleton, handling all the inventory, including the containers that are going to be in the game. Weapon types, which is an enum I've defined in the inventory database. In fact, I can show you the inventory database. It's just, there we go. So we have the player inventory, the default inventory size is handled here. Your equipped weapon starts with null, gets set to unarmed at runtime. And then which of the inventory slots is the weapon slot. Great. So from here, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Let's give us a bit more space. Blah, 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 blah. No, too much space. Can't see what I'm doing. Switch weapon. So this is called from the UI when the player puts something into the equipped slot. First thing, what node is the attachment point. So this is a bone attached node that says I'm attached to the right hand that I've called right hand attach. We can put several in there. We can put one on the back, put the weapon on there, one on the head, one on the shoulders for armor pieces, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, if something has gone wrong, if there is no child and the weapon is set to null, please load the empty. There's just some error checking. For every single child of right hand attach of the attachment bone, get rid of it. Right, so this is just a empty hand is a queue free with a couple of extra bits for bookkeeping, and that's going to make sure that one, I don't have anything in there, and two, I don't have multiple things in there. I can have exactly one weapon in my hand at a time. Then the new weapon is whatever this weapon resource is coming in. So the UI is telling me this is the resource. It's Demon Axe, for example. Great. Get Demon Axe, get the property rigid path, right? That was the thing I showed you. That was the path we wrote in, and make an instance. So basically, great. So now I want you to think of this resource, find out what rigid body is attached to it. It's actually a weapon body. It's a new class that I've based on rigid body. And then right hand attached, I'd like you to add that as a child. So if the wielding, if the item you're carrying is not unarmed, in other words, if you have a weapon, and the armed variable, which I need to name, is basically, am I holding the weapon out? Am I in combat or combat stance? Then hide the weapon. So if I'm holding a sword and I switch to another sword, I want to see the new sword. But if I'm not in the combat stance, if I'm not ready to fight, it shouldn't be visible. Finally, if the item I am wielding is unarmed and I'm still in combat pose, then just get the animator to get me out of combat. So just put the weapon away. So there's a lot of little things happening here to make it feel fluid, and it's weird because when it works, you don't think about it. It's just, yep, it's the way I expect it to work. But when it's not working, boy, do you notice it. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
I've made you really big on screen.
I'm very
So one of the things that was happening was that and this was alluding to when it's not quite working, the character would just start by withdrawing a weapon that was just nothing.
Yeah, when you loaded the scene, the first thing was like, shink!
It's like,
I've got an empty blade.
That wasn't even the entry point to the animation. So it's been a lot of fun going through trying to find little inconsistencies like that.
And part of it is I started the inventory using Ben Anderson's resource inventory guide, which is a lot of fun and very cool. But I wanted to do slightly different things. So I'm taking that and building on it and building on it and building on it. And pretty soon I'm like losing track of what's happening because I didn't write the code from scratch. So going in and doing a lot of tweaking there. But yeah, it's coming along quite nicely. And we've now got a system that feels right. There's also a little scroll icon at the bottom, or it's actually a money icon at the bottom. So
yes,
we have the ability to buy and sell weapons at some point, so we can get better loot.
Marketplace.
Because this kind of game is a lot about finding nice loot and buying things you like. Like that's part of the gameplay. So I'm looking forward to putting that in. And the next big one is going to be bringing back behavior trees and getting the NPCs to do some attacking.
Yes.
Right now we don't have an NPC, so I'll probably just take Arya and make her translucent or marble or something.
Yeah, by all means. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing after this stream, but not straight away, I'm going to be doing a live stream. Bum, bum, bum. I'm going to make us a skeleton, and it's going to go absolutely perfully.
But aren't you doing a live stream? Just take the skull I made and plop it on her head. No one will notice.
Enlarge it and make it like that, like just a
hat.
A hat.
Put a couple of pieces of string around it.
That'll work.
And a little sign that says "Legit Skellington."
Yes. So the plan, and I just thought, you know what? I've been thinking about doing the skeleton as a live stream at some point, and I thought, well, after the stream would be great, but it won't be straight after the stream. So we'll probably wrap up today as usual around 8 p.m. UK time, so in about 40 minutes or so. And then after that, I'm going to go say hello to the family, or good night to the family, because kids will be coming up to bedtime. And then about 9 p.m., I'm going to hop back on and I'll start streaming. And I'll post a link for everybody over in the Discord as well. So if you're not part of the Discord, I expect most of you are, but I shall just paste that in for you here. And that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Perfect.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's weird.
Well, I've been trying a text expander tool, so I don't have to keep typing the same thing in all the time, and it just didn't load up with Windows by the looks of it. So let's try that again. So I'll announce over on the Discord the link and everything for that, but there we go. That's gone through. I'm glad that works now. I should check these things before trying to use them.
So yeah, there's a lot coming. There's a lot of it is coming together. No, I've had a headache for a week. Can't form words very well. But Aria is fun to control. There's a lot of good movements happening.
Yes,
combat is starting to look good. I've got light attacks cycling between each other, which is a lot of fun. Right now, the solution I've got isn't very expandable. Like, you kind of have to hack around it, and I want to change that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I want to make it so that you can switch from one attack to the other.
We should, of course, talk about the Kickstarter itself. So, obviously, we've been showing off here what we've been working on. But I've seen a few questions about the Kickstarter lurking. First of all, on the Discord, there's actually a channel now. So if you have any specific questions, and we'll post updates on there as well, that's the place to ask, because we're definitely going to be seeing that. Sometimes YouTube comments, we don't get notified about them, or they creep in and I see them a week later. I'm like, I'm really sorry.
Yep.
One of the questions is, when's this Kickstarter going to be released? So our initial plan, a couple of weeks back, was going to be the 2nd of August. However, I'm away on the 2nd of August, and despite me going, oh, it'll be fine, I think where I'm going, the broadband's going to be 2 cups and a piece of string. So,
and as I keep saying to you, you're on vacation.
What does that even mean?
So don't run a Kickstarter on the day you get there.
Morning. So our plan now is to when's 7 days from the 2nd? Because I
what's
can't
2
count.
+ 7?
9th.
There we go.
Hey, I went to school. Math.
I have a drama degree.
Yeah. So the plan is to launch on the 9th. What I'm going to try and do, we've had some hoops to jump through with Kickstarter. I didn't realize you had to re-verify yourself every time you go and do. So we're now verified, I believe, on Kickstarter.
Yep.
So the next stage is to start building up the page. I'd like to get a rudimentary page up with all the base stuff around the 2nd, actually, and then I can work on adding to it and everything as we near the launch date. So I'll post everybody a link to the Kickstarter page once it's created.
And I really want to get to a point where we have a vertical slice that is fun to look at and play.
Yes, because we want to make sure that there is an example project that people can play.
Yeah, like, it's all very well for me to say, well, I know that, you know, I can put together a good combat system and all the rest of it, so give us your money. But it's another thing to say, here's what it's going to feel like, and I want to teach you how to do that.
And of course, all of this is not subject to change, but if you've got feedback that we can incorporate and make the courses even better, that's brilliant. We'd really appreciate things like that, especially from the people watching at the moment, because we know that you guys are our core fans and people who, strangely enough, tune in to listen to us every week. So that's fantastic. So thank you for
discourage them.
No, it's fine. It's the British put yourself down humor. There was something else I was going to say. We should talk about what we were talking about the other day with the pledges.
We should. I will remember what that is in a minute.
Okay. So basically, we're going to go down a similar route that we went down with Godot Getaway, but because of this, the scope of this Kickstarter is so much more than Godot Getaway was. The plan will be that there will be, you can buy the Godot path. I'm going to call it a path. I think that was or something like that. So the Godot path, the Blender path, and the music path. So what that will mean is, at the initial goal, the initial offering, if you just go down the Godot path, you'll get everything that's Godot. Blender path, everything that's Blender. Music, everything that's music. And if you go for the complete bundle or a mixture of, you'll get that path. As we progress through the Kickstarter, we've got an idea of stretch goals. I'll flip up Trello in a moment to just go over those again. But the idea of the stretch goals is it doesn't matter about where you've pledged. You will get everything every time we meet those stretch goals.
Let me try and put that into a sort of slightly easier to pass thing.
Yep.
Rather than saying we're going to do lots and lots and lots of Godot courses, lots and lots and lots of Blender courses, we might still split them up into lots of courses.
Oh, yes.
But what you would be pledging for is, I want to learn the Godot stuff, so I will pledge to the Godot stuff, or path, or bundle, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So if it's one course, you get it as one course. If it's 7 courses, you get it 7 courses. And then, as we go through stretch goals and we start adding more and more things, you get whatever that is. So if you've pledged for Godot, every stretch goal that relates to Godot is included in what you get. We don't want to do these little bitty like add-ons and there's a stretch goal, but you don't actually get it unless you give it some more money. That just doesn't feel good. We would much rather you guys got excited and told other people about it, got them excited, than try and squeeze you for every penny you've got.
Yes, I'd much rather have teaching more students more things is basically the is the benefit.
We do have some idea for some add-ons, because last time we had a situation where people got the pledge they wanted, they didn't really want to get the other stuff, but they kind of wanted to support more, which is a lovely problem to have. And there are a couple of ideas we have for add-ons. We're still kind of working through some of them. The basic one we were thinking of, and this is still very much in progress, hot brain code, if you will, is when we do the course, you get the basic assets that we'll be using in the course. But if you want the expanded asset packs, all of them, then for an extra few pounds, you get those added to your pledge. So we'll go through the dungeon grid map kit, for example. But if you want extra wall types, extra props, extra things, a few more bucks, you'll get that and the nature stuff and whatever other asset packs.
Excuse me.
We're still wondering how that's going to play and how people will like that. It might be, here's a nice little bonus if you want the extra stuff, and it might be, you can't have it unless you give us some money. Like, we're interested in how people react to that, so let us know.
I'll show the Trello board here, and if you've got any suggestions, thoughts, feelings as I'm going through this, ask in the chat. I will be obviously looking at the screen and reading, but if there's a question, Yann will field it. So, if I switch over, no one's going to be able to read this. I'm going to zoom in a moment. This is kind of the overall. So we've got the action adventure begins over here on the left, and that would be the core offering. And then as we go up in the stretch goals, essentially, there will be more offerings. There'll be more asset packs. There'll be more Blender content. There'll be more Godot content. The feature set becomes greater and greater as we go down this chain. If we zoom in now, so we can actually read, I'll make that nice and big. So the core experience is going to be our initial funding goal. And with that, we're going to expand our current dungeon asset pack, the weapons asset pack as well. There'll be several weapons. I've got a great idea, which may end up in which we'll come to in a moment, which will create quite a few. A UI asset pack, and you'll get Aria essentially in her final form, so you could use her in the course. And this is, of course, if you wanted the assets, those will be there as something you can purchase. And as Yann was saying earlier, if something's important to the course, it'll be provided as part of the course anyway.
Right. We're not going to say, here's the course, go find some assets. Here are the ones we're using. If you want to tweak it and add extra stuff here, you can.
Yes, totally. And then I ummed and ahed about doing music for the RPG.
The music course was back.
The music course is back. So we are going to, much like Godot Getaway, focus on RPG music. And what I can see happening is the action adventure begins. It will be focused on what's in that area. And once again, just as we reach these other stretch goals, there can be more content added to the music course, focusing on different styles. So when we're talking about the overworld, we're going to have a completely different musical brief, essentially, than we would do when we're down in the dungeon. So that's
less kazoos.
Exactly, kazoos. Anyway, so moving on to some of the Blender content here, Yann and I were talking about the other day, and it would be amazing to be able to create several weapons and then using a script generate a series of weapons. And of course, you could then use this in multiple different places. You could do it to generate multiple different cars if you wanted to really go off on a tangent there.
Or potions, or all kinds of stuff.
Exactly, because you can change the type of... take a sword, for instance. You could have a different pommel. I'll get that right one day. You pummel with a pommel. The hilt, the crossguard, the blade. And then you can actually generate a random sword from that. And that's one of those things that really helps with asset creation, is being able to get a computer to help you out. It's computer-assisted design for a reason.
And the interesting thing that we were talking about there was we have this UI, and if you start making a whole bunch of weapons in Blender, it'd be great to have an automated way of generating the thumbnail.
Yes. So one of the things that I'm currently playing with is positioning a camera in such a way that it will take a picture of the certain size of sword, take a picture, well, just render it out in such a way that it could actually be used as the thumbnail within the game itself, which would be, it would save so much time, and also it would be an incredibly useful thing to have as well.
There are other ways that we could do that, but I think that'd be the most fun.
Yeah, I'm really keen on not being lazy, but really being efficient, thinking about how can we make this as not as necessarily easy to do, but as simple to do. So you're not constantly... I mean, after making all of those weapons, I come to realise that, oh, if I'd done this in a slightly more modular way, it would have meant that it would have been faster. Instead of taking 4 hours to do the lot, I think it was something like that in total, it would have ended up being maybe 3 hours.
Take you 4 hours, but you could have had a much bigger variety of weapons. Now, there is a downside to the current thinking with the way we put these weapons together. You could generate a bunch of weapons, but what you don't want to do is generate 2,000 individual meshes and bring them all in.
Could you imagine that? That would be too many. I mean,
because keeping track of that many things in Godot, it can do it, but you've made the problem much bigger. So this is good for like creating a whole bunch and then picking the ones you think should be in your game.
Of course, the counter argument to that is if we get to stretch goal 3, don't want to jump around too much, the procedural generation and roguelite, that's where suddenly having 2,000 swords is a benefit.
And that's when we start looking about how do we take the basic components that you make in Blender. So let's say you make 10 pommels, 10 hilts, 10 guards, 10 blades. Rather than making 10 to the power of 4 things, exporting them from Blender, doing that way, you take those 40 objects and then generate them at runtime in Godot, and then save the code so it can repeat them next time you load the game. That's a much more efficient way of doing that, but it's also more complicated. So that's why that's up on the stretch goal.
It's further
I'm
down,
waving like they can see me, but they can't see me. Hello.
And I will start here with the Godot stuff. So one of the things to take away from this here is these aren't all at the same level of abstraction. Some of them are more focused and detailed, and some of them, like, for instance, RPG music course, that's a much higher level. That's going to obviously be a course, whereas grid maps is not going to be a course. So just to point out here that this isn't a number of courses. It's more of a
covered.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, we've got things like basic combat and UI and all the rest of it. You can't have those things without having simple animation. Like, animation is clearly part of that. But what we're not going to be doing is crazy procedural animation. No. Because I haven't had time to play with it, and I'm not going to.
I'd like to zoom out again.
You just like zooming.
I do like zooming in and out. So one of the things you can see at this level is the distribution of colours. So in front of us here, we have red, which is asset packs. So these are things that, as it sounds, it's assets that you'll be able to use in your games, and there will be cut down versions included in the courses where necessary, and there'll be full packs available for those who want to collect a series of packs and use them in your own games.
Right.
The orange ones are art-focused ones, primarily over in Blender. There is one that won't be in Blender, and that is the 2D UI element creation as part of the first stretch goal here. The blue ones, I'm going to broadly say, are coding, and they'll all be in Godot. And there are a few different colours here. So the green ones are all about general design. So that's these are more evergreen topics, things that don't just apply to Godot. They just level design is something that you could use in any engine. It's something that you can even use if you wanted to, make your own Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it's good for board games.
Yeah, board games and all that that sort of thing, which is brilliant. Now, I've spoken with Paul a couple of weeks ago, who's done his grease pencil course with us, and creating concept art will be part of this, and it will also go into stretch. So at this level, we'll be talking about concept art for the overworld itself, and it will also trickle down across here. So as we go further and further up the stretch goals, there will be character concept art, etc.
Nice.
as we go up, which I think is a really nice way of being able to get more the further we go along this. And I'm really excited because this journey is awesome.
It is a really nice journey, and it's one where we've tried to be as realistic as possible. Like, what does this look like, and then what's the next step we can take it to?
Yeah,
and then make
100%.
Realistic, concrete, logical steps that sort of build off each other. So
yes, that's why I keep zooming out, because I think it's important to see that there is a big chunk at the beginning,
right.
And even though these aren't all at the same level of abstraction, there a lot of them are roughly around the same level. So that gives us an idea that each one of these is going to add actually a good chunk of content and learning for you guys.
Yep.
I don't think we need to go through everything on here, because then we're just talking with text on the screen, which is always difficult.
You can always link them to the Trello board.
This is exactly what I was going to do. If you want to have a look at the Trello board yourselves, it is a public Trello board. You should be able to comment on it. If you've got any particular suggestions, then we'd love to hear them as well. You can just click on something, creating Godot particles, and then you can just go, hello, I love this idea.
I mean, yeah, you could do that.
I mean, I think you don't even have to be signed in, but there we go. We can comment on there and ask questions as well. If you're unsure as to what something actually means, we tried to name things in a way that makes it relatively obvious what each one is. But if you want to know more about specifics, this is a great place to ask. And of course, you can always ask over on the Discord, Kickstarter, GARP channel.
This is a living document. Like, we are constantly tweaking and moving and adding things. We're trying to make
the music course has been left and right several times.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we are very excited about what we can do here. Yeah. Both, from a learning journey and just as a game prototype. It's a lot of fun to see this stuff come together. Like getting new assets from Mikey and then making them come to life with these animations he's given me. It just feels good. And then seeing Mikey react to it and, bouncing ideas with each other feels great. So one of the challenges we're having here is trying not to massively overpromise, because feature creep is a thing. Yes. Like we were talking the other day, and I was.
What did I add in?
I was talking about games with really interesting design mechanics. And I mentioned Guild Wars 2, which, if you know anything about MMOs, has some really interesting solutions to some design problems. And Mikey never played it, so it's like, well, download it and take a look, and we'll talk about it. And at this point, Mikey's like, okay, so we could do full voiceovers, and we could do matte paintings, and we could do these animated things. Like, we could. He's like, how do you feel about exploration? It's like, I don't think we could do mounts. Like, I don't think that's useful. It'd look really cool, though. Yes, but I don't think we need them.
Yes,
we can make the overworld big enough so you need a mount.
So one of the things that is I will admit is a dumping ground is the game juice column. It's become a bit that will probably end up if we reach that area, that will be stretched out, pardon the pun, to a more reasonable amount, because there is quite a few things in there that's more of a as I say, a dumping ground for our ideas.
Right.
I mean, it would be absolutely wonderful if it's incredibly successful and gets to Game Juice. And then I definitely want to talk about map painting and things like that. And those who don't understand what map painting is, it's not a name of a person. It's also not watching a guy called Matt paint. It's your background scenery. It's often used. And one of the things that I was, when I opened up Guild Wars, I was like, that's a really novel way. We've got the 3D characters in the world, but behind them is hand-painted scenery. And this happens
Hand-painted scenery with parallax, which is
with
nicer.
parallax. It was really nice to look. And little things like the menu had that effect on it as well. And I was like, this is a really great way of using your concept art in game. And often concept art is something that's made and it's left in a book, or it's left on the pages, or you don't take it any further. But I think that sort of stuff, if you can incorporate it into the game, is absolutely fantastic, because you're celebrating part of the process that very few people actually get to see.
But it's a really good example. If you haven't played Guild Wars 2 and you're interested in the theory of game design, I recommend downloading it and playing it for free, just because they've got some really consistent design qualities going on. And if you've played any MMOs like World of Warcraft or EverQuest Online or Star Wars Galaxies, or any of the older ones, you'll know that there are certain problems these games have. For instance, I see a silver mine, I mine the silver mine, Mikey sees the silver mine, my silver mine is gone. Sad. Problem solved.
Yes, that was a bit. It's been years since I played WoW, probably 15. And I remember that being an issue. You'd go around to some of the little nodes on the ground where you'd mine iron or whatever, and they'd be empty because someone's already been around and done it. And that's not a great feeling when you're having to wait for the server to reload a resource.
A lot of that game is designed around trying to solve the problem of pitting players against each other when they don't want to be. So things like, there's a public quest going on. Mikey turns up and starts killing a bunch of things. Now, in a lot of games, I need to kill 10 things to succeed.
Yes.
If Mikey turns up and kills the things, I now have to find other things to kill.
Yeah.
In Guild Wars 2, either Mikey can turn up, kill 10 things and go, and my quest is still going, but there's also other things I can do, or it's a public quest, in which case we have to kill 10 things. If Mikey turns up and help, we just get a bigger reward. They've also got solutions like if you res somebody, if someone's downed and you heal them, you get more experience than you would if you're killing an NPC.
Which
so
encourages,
you are incentivized to be a community. It's a really interesting way of solving that potentially toxic, ultra competitive world of MMOs.
Or just preventing a troll as well. It doesn't have to be competitive. I can foresee someone finding it incredibly funny going around a starter area, killing off all the easy to kill things as a level 80 or whatever, and it becoming impossible for anybody to actually start playing the game.
Yeah. So it's there are actually controls against that as well, but I don't want to just become an ArenaNet fanboy. It's a really interesting game. The other one that we played recently that we did talk about briefly, that has some really interesting design mechanics and a very strong aesthetic, was Operation Tango.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things about that is only one person needs to buy it, but you need two to play it. And all that happens is one person starts the game, it generates a code, you send that code to your friend, and when they log in, they just paste that code in, they're in your game.
And
and you can see what the other person's choosing. So if I want to be the hacker, Mikey can see me doing it and then shout at me. Sorry, my nose is all itchy.
No, that was absolutely fantastic, and I think that's a great way of certainly if you are an indie developer, is a great way of encouraging people to play your game. Because if it's, I don't know what it is, 20, let's say it's £20, $20 thereabouts, suddenly both of you buying it's $40, and you might be like, well, is it collectively worth $40? But $20, suddenly it's $10 each or whatever, and you can you can both have this shared experience, and play it, which is absolutely fantastic. I think that's a great model to get people interested in the games that you're creating. Free to play is obviously also a great way, but you've got to be aware of the, especially if it's an online game, you're going to have services that you need to support that you can't do for free. So you have to make sure, as the industry calls it, you have a couple of whales, people who are going to spend some big bucks on your game to basically subsidize everybody else playing.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, we're coming to the Q2 mark. Mikey, do you want to show off the game again for anyone who's joined in late so you can see the current progress? And then we can move on to questions, comments, concerns, interpretive dances, and jingles. It's interesting TV while I look blankly at the camera.
It's okay. We got the game loading, which is nice. So here we go. So we're in our test arena at the moment. We've got a selection of Weepans on the table.
Death cutlery, if you will.
We've got a... is ambient occlusion cranked in this version?
Yes.
The corners are very, very dark. We've got a chest over here.
Not cranked, it's just turned on, but the lighting is such there's one light source. So.
Unfortunately, this is not showing up on the inventory yet, but that's something Yann's working on. So chest...
It has inventory, there's a potion in there, you just can't see or get it.
Oh, you tease. I'm not going to run into the table, I'm going to try not to anyway. So now we can pick up weapons. We can put them in our inventory. We can put them in our weapon slot. And then we equip our weapon. It can be a two-handed weapon. We've got these in at the moment.
Mikey, can you show off what happens if you have a weapon equipped and then you switch the weapon that's equipped for another weapon that's equipped? Like switch the two-handed for a one-handed.
Like so. So we've got some axes here. I think these axes look pretty sweet. That took a while to get the cord around there. One of the approaches that we're taking with our assets is to avoid texturing where possible. Now, texturing is there are some pros and cons to this. So, texturing has the benefit of improving performance, which on most devices and the level of complexity we've actually got, I don't think is ever actually going to be an issue. So, it's more of a theoretical problem that we don't really want to solve.
Right.
So, one of the positives with how we're doing this is because all of the models and everything do have shared materials across them. So if we have a look at the swords on the table, there's a type of shiny metal. There's a type of slightly duller metal.
I should replace them all with the ones I was using for the table. But yeah, there's a steel, there's an iron, there's a glass, there's a... Yeah.
So these are shared materials. So we've got an improvement in sort of efficiency because we've got those shared materials, which kind of counteracts the inefficiency of having a model that has multiple materials on it. The benefit of having the multiple materials and not going for a texturing, so going for this flatter look, means that the way in which we can generate assets is far, far quicker. Not having to go through the process of UV unwrapping, where it can be avoided, and then going through the process of texturing on top, and actually getting that texturing looking convincing is something that we're actively avoiding.
It was an aesthetic choice we made early on. We wanted this to feel like a very clean, low poly game, right? Where the atmosphere is generated from the environmental effects rather than very fancy texturing. There's no reason why you can't go the other direction, but we went this way.
So her walk just here, she looks menacing.
She is. She's carrying an axe.
I don't often sort of like move around at funny angles and like there.
I know. I'm constantly checking how this is working because the blend has to work.
Yeah.
See how she. I've also not got stamina and health plugged in yet, so you can see the bars at the top. They don't do anything yet. The code is ready. I just haven't plugged it in. You should switch it out for a two-handed weapon and do the heavy attack, just because I was so proud of that.
So we've got that type of attack, and then we've got our heavy attack. You ready? Here we go. That is so awesome. Yes, and the two-handed animations are obviously different to the one-handed.
Yep. And the magic animations again will be different. So, although there I need to play with a lot more particles.
I do like that.
Although my
I'm
secret
just
plan
playing
is
with
to
the
get Mikey
dodge.
to make the particles, just because that way I can focus on coding and he can do pretty things. You're
That's
welcome.
yeah. Why? Thank you. Occasionally, so one of the things I was playing with the other day, and it doesn't always work, unfortunately, is trying to knock stuff off the table. There's collision on the objects, and the axe passes through it so quickly that it doesn't really register.
And I can turn on continuous detection, but then I have to have continuous detection on for every rigid body, and that's going to add up quite quickly.
Yes, and we alluding to performance issues earlier, talking about materials and draw calls and all that lot. Turning on physics is like 20 times worse than any of that.
Yeah, I've had a situation where I had a lot of rigid bodies come into a scene early on, and it slowed the game down dramatically. So putting things into sleep mode when they're not being used is important.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever played a game like Kerbal Space Program, is a great example where you've got lots and lots of physically active objects, and they need to be physically active because
That's the game.
that's the game. And you can make some amazing spaceships, and then straight away something happens, and your frame rate, like you collide, and parts of your ship start breaking off. They were sleeping, and now they're not sleeping anymore, and you've got hundreds of things interacting with each other. You very quickly end up with a spike. Not just, it's mainly in CPU load whilst it's calculating the physics, and we've got to be aware of that. If we decide to make a game that's incredibly physics heavy, we've got to be aware that if someone has an i3, an older i3 with maybe only 2 active cores, that's going to cause a lot of slowdown on their machine, not only as thinking of it as a game developer, but also if you're producing a course. I know when I get round to talking about physics and smoke simulation over on the Blender Creative Series, there's going to be a bit at the beginning that warns people that this course is not for those with, years old laptops. You can do everything, but you're going to be waiting a very long time to see what your simulation turned out like. And
Speaking of new technology,
yep.
there's something we haven't talked about.
Ooh.
So one of the big elephants in the room with this course is that Godot 4 is due out of beta at some point this year.
Yes.
So, Mikey, how are we going to handle that?
The course,
That's right.
The Godot courses will be in Godot 4.
Yeah. Now, does this mean that if Godot 4 is delayed, the course is delayed? Yes, because it kind of has to be. Like, we don't really have a choice there.
Now, that won't mean that everything is delayed.
No.
That'll mean that some of the critical Godot parts will be delayed. As soon as there's a stable version, content will start
some
appearing.
Beta, I'll say. Just because, well, assuming that it doesn't happen before the Kickstarter, as soon as there's a thingy beta, a beta version, because the nightly builds crash, and it's just not a good learning environment. It's such an ongoing situation. But I do have today's test. Would you like to see today's test?
Ooh, surprise!
There is no code yet. I'm just testing how it looks.
Bear with me. I need to switch everything on for you. And let's go back to main screen. So we have...
Here she is in Godot 4. I haven't changed the colors, but you'll notice already the rendering is very different.
It is.
And, do you want to see something cool? We have a directional light here for the sun. Check this out. If I could just grab the gizmo. Check. No, gizmo. Gizmo.
Oh, stars.
The new physics sky for Godot actually reacts to the digital light and will generate sunsets and sunrises automatically.
Nice. They introduced a very similar thing to Blender in 2.9. they released a new sky.
Like it's actually generating what the sunset looks like, and there's parameters changing there. It's really fun. So I was just playing this morning with like the import, which is a very different process. The materials, the animation tree. There's quite a lot that's changed here, although it's still pretty familiar. But yeah, just getting the lighting in, and already she's looking, I mean, a lot smoother.
A lot less flat, as yeah.
The
The
lighting is
lighting
very.
engine, yeah. I mean,
I mean, I can turn off that.
yep, we're getting.
But yeah, the new SDFGI system is really nice. Like it's a very impressive piece of lighting. I can stop reading the skylights, stop using occlusion. But I just think this is a really promising thing.
Yes,
this is
definitely.
just me playing around with a nightly build and bringing it in and see how it looks. But yeah, this is what we've decided. We're umming and ahhing. How do we handle the release of God of 4? I'm coming on a shared screen now. And the end was just like, let's just commit. We're going to do this thing in God of 4. It's going to mean a little bit more prep time. It's going to mean that we are dependent on God of 4 coming into beta before we start releasing any courseware. But it's a better journey. And frankly, if God of 4 releases halfway through the first section, then the first section becomes completely pointless because no one's going to be wanting to use God of 3.
Yes, and if we do stuff too soon, it adds that extra layer of complexity because people will be using an unstable copy of Godot, an almost guaranteed unstable copy, which means supporting someone who's new to Godot.
My copy crashed twice while I was setting that up.
Yeah,
it's not stable.
I've played with it myself because I'm really interested in how the lighting and everything will make environmental design choices.
And physical particles too. It's a fascinating aspect.
Yes, they actually have global illumination as one of the things they've focused on.
This did bring us on to, and I'm going to announce this, even though we haven't discussed whether we should announce this. This does bring us on to the next major Godot for Beginners course, which I have a good name for, but I'm not announcing the name for it yet because I want to make sure that we keep the name. Are we going to kickstart that back to back? And the answer is no. We don't need to kickstart our Beginners Godot thing because I already know what I'm doing, making those content. There's no reason to kickstart it. I will just start working on it and people can buy it the moment the first section's available.
Yeah.
Just like a normal course. It's going to be quite a big course. It's going to be certainly similar in scope to Discovering Godot, but with different projects. I mean, there'll probably be a 2D platform game and a top-down game, and we'll learn the same kind of way, but we're not going to just repeat Discovering Godot. Just because it's a new engine, let's make something new.
Yeah, new engine, new projects, exciting. And
it also means I can use Godot 4's navigation system for the RPG.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's lots coming in. It will be in Godot 4. I don't think we've mentioned that before.
No, this is our live review.
Ta-da! So yes, absolutely. I'm genuinely surprised because I hadn't seen Yann had brought the stuff in. I've played with it, but not very successfully. One of the builds I got didn't actually launch. I tried it I think 2 months ago, double clicked and it was just like, what's this? This is not Godot. And then it crashed again.
My version is struggling getting Vulkan working. It's very much in heavy development. Yeah. We've got about a minute left. So folks, if you have any comments, concerns, questions, interpretive dances, jingles, or pictures of cats, please feel free to share them. There's a dog barking outside my window.
Woof.
Woof.
Oh, woof.
But otherwise, it's been great to see you and great catch up with Mikey and great showing you what we've been working on and playing around and having ideas and watching Mikey run into tables.
I didn't run into tables that much today.
I know. I need to put more tables in.
That won't help. That really won't help. No. If you guys have any questions, now's the time to shout. Do check out over on the Discord. Ask questions there when we're not here, basically. And in an hour-ish's time, I will be making a skeleton.
You will.
Or skeleton, depending.
It'll be very scary.
Rah. That'd be interesting. For anybody who wants to join in, I will not be knowing what I'm doing. I've no, I
Do I not make fun of you enough? Is that the problem?
no. One of the comments I had on I was trying to record the making of Arya, the main character, and half my recording wasn't there because Windows decided to change my monitor order. You know, if you go into the Windows display panels, you've got 1, 2, and what I was doing was mirroring 1 to my capture card. So it was actually 2 screens the same, and over there, fine. Windows went 2, 1, so all you had was the picture of OBS recording itself. I was like, oh, that's great. But I discovered that halfway through, so it was not a full thing. But a few of the comments on there was, I love seeing the way that, and it was a much faster process because it was time lapse. But they love seeing how I went about certain creative decisions. Mm-hmm. So if you want to see me struggling later, do join. You know, I'm quite open with the fact that it's one of the things we mainly produce courses or curated videos. You know, we've gone through, we've edited, we've made sure that if there are mistakes, they're deliberate enough that there's something to learn from them. Most of the time, but sometimes it's nice to be a bit more raw about things. I think it's a bit more connected. Yeah, raw about it. So if you fancy joining, I will post in the announcements in a bit. What?
I need more sleep.
We all need more sleep. Well, this is why I'm doing something crazy right now.
No, it was the roar. It's just making me giggle.
Fair enough. I don't have any. Yes. Yeah, you will demonstrate. I don't have any toys lying around. There we go. Okay, so before this descends into complete anarchy, my chat says I was disconnected. Please wait while we try to reconnect you. I haven't a clue if anybody has typed in since then.
No.
Nope. Well,
however, it's been lovely to see everybody.
Yes, it has.
We'll see you real soon. And thank you for joining us. And thank you for the jelly and the ice cream. I had a lovely time.
2-week warning. Get excited. We'd love if you could help share as we go through. And that includes now, if you just send people over to the Discord, I mean, there's a link right there. That's a joining link. Very easy. Canopy Games /P. I hate the fact that we have that for P there. I think it's for pages /Discord. I mean, nice and straightforward.
I think P is for toucan.
Maybe. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Any questions, give us a shout, and we'll see you in the next one.
Press it.